As you may find in the text, Sukshma Sharira means subtle body. So Sukshma is subtle, its opposite Sthula means gross. For example, our true personality, which includes not a physical body alone, physical body only is the gross aspect of our true personality. What we actually are is subtle personality, or called Sukshma Sharira. To give an example, suppose you meet a person by chance somewhere in a library or in a university or hospital. Later, you just meet him for a minute, and later you may remember him. His physical stature, 6 feet, fat, dark, black, grey hair or black hair, all this you may remember. That is gross body. The tree or a plant is a gross dimension, but the seed is the subtle. The plant is gross, the visible part. The tree is gross, but the seed is different from seed is the source of tree and plant, but that is the invisible, the source. The Sukshma means the subtle. So what is our subtle personality? I give this example. There are many wonderful people in the world who are fine externally. Diplomats, movie stars, dramatists, all. People are very good in negotiation. All that. They have to be, that's their bread and butter. They have to be good, talking nicely, diplomats. That is the gross personality. He's a very polite gentleman. But then suppose you meet somebody who may not be so very impressive externally, but you have a close acquaintance with that person, and then you are impressed by some of the higher ideals that he stands for, some of the values that he is trying to practice, which you understand by close association with him. That is his subtle personality. The Gandhi, certainly not a very remarkable figure externally, or Lincoln for the matter. Remember them for what they stood for, what they believed in, what values they practiced. Now, these have to do with their thoughts, emotions and feelings, ideas and so on. So you can find Shankaracharya defines Sukshma Shariram, means subtle personality. Buddhindriyani Sravanam Tvagakshi Khranam Cha Jikhva Vishyavabodhanat Bhak Panipadu Gudamastipastham Karmendriyani Pravanani Karmasu. It's a definition of different items in the subtle personality. Well, Jnanendriyas. Jnanendriyas means the instruments of perception. For example, we hear with our ears, we can understand things by touching heat, for example. When you touch an iron pot, you understand it is hot. That's you use the Tvagindriya, means the sense of perception called skin. So eyes, you perceive things by seeing. It's also an instrument, a tool for perception. Then Jikhwa means the tongue with which you taste things. And nostril smelling. So you can see all these things, hear all these things, touch and then taste and smell. These are all 5 senses of perception will be called Jnanendriyas in Sanskrit. This is one important item. It's a long list. And then Vakpani Padam Gudam Upastham. So then there are instruments of action, different things that we that we use for doing different things. We speak, we handle things, we speak with the tongue, with the vocal cords, and we handle things with the hands, walk with feet, walk pani padam, etc. So vocal cords, hands, legs, and so on. So these are all different senses of action. Karmendriya is called. So now they are all actively involved in different things. Here one important point to remember is, especially with regard to Jnanendriyas. You may have heard of this law of karma and the doctrine of reincarnation. Now when a man dies, when the body is pushed through the tube, his body is gone, eyes are gone, ears are gone, all burned to ashes. But what he has seen, what he has heard, what he has thought, what he has done, all of them will remain in a system we call Jivatma. They don't disappear when the body disappears. See, you are seeing things in this life, not with the same eyes with which you saw in the previous life. So the doctrine of reincarnation and law of karma are essential factors in a proper understanding of some of the fundamental teachings of Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, Sikhism, all these traditions. That's why this is the unique characteristic of religious traditions which have origin in the South Asian continent. Buddhism, which of course was a part of Hinduism till about 60 years after Buddha's passing away, became a separate sect, just like Christianity became a non-Jewish tradition, distinct from Jewish tradition with Saint Paul. Like that, Buddhism became a distinct religious denomination about 60 years after Buddha's passing away, after the first Buddhist council. So in all these traditions, these two belief systems are taken for granted. One is love karma, other one is reincarnation. Death is only a comma, not a full stop. It is only a change of flight somewhere. That's all. You are going from here to New York, change of flight in Chicago, like that. So whatever we do in this life will create a residual effect called samskaras in Buddhism and Hinduism. Buddhism is built upon this. Paditya Samutpada, all these are built upon this. So, whatever we do, we think, we act, will create an effect that is visible, but it creates an invisible effect. And it becomes a tendency, an impression, an attitude, maybe an aptitude. You give, let's say you donate $100 to a charity, maybe to a poor person. He is benefited. That is visible, obvious. But then, and you you reach your home and you feel, oh, I have done something sensible. So that feeling is invisible. And it also produces a residual effect called karma phala. Called karma in a broader sense, means the effect of karma, the residual effect of actions. Good actions and also bad actions, both will leave behind this residual effect, residue. So, all the five senses, that is our Sravanam, Akshi, Ghranam, Jihva, etc. All these, all Buddhindriyani, Jnanendriyani, all these will create a residual effect. When we are born again, we take this with us. That is, what we actually are. Our real personality is Sukshma Sharira, that's all. When you feel a great respect, reverence for a person who may not be very impressive, 6 feet tall, very impressive personally, physically, but you can see the great man like Lincoln, Gandhi, many great men the world has produced. Some of the historical figures. We remember them because of the great contributions they made to human civilization, some of the ideals that they practiced and stood for and lived with in their whole life. So we get something, we remember something about them. And we have a deep adoration or respect for them. That respect is for the subtle personality. So the subtle personality will carry all the samskaras and tendencies from one life to another life. You are born again with this, let's say, checkbook, which shows you have a bank balance, karma bank balance, which you enjoy. If you have done a lot of good things, you'll come back to you, that's all. So even if you go to a place where prayer is going on, meditation is going on, or some higher discussion is happening, philosophy, spirituality, mysticism and so on, you'll be drawn towards that and then you feel a special attraction for that. It cannot happen unless we have prepared our mind. Most people may not have done this earlier, but from previous life cycles, they have already prepared their mind. So we feel at home in a holy place because our mind connects with that vibrations of the place. So again, Buddhindriya means senses of perception create these samskaras, tendencies, impressions, attitudes. Then Vak Panivadu Gudamapi Vastham Karmendriyani Pravanani Karmasu. And then the 5 senses of action. They also do things. Physical action also can create a tendency, good and bad tendencies. But mental actions are more potent. They create stronger tendencies. See, if we do certain things mechanically, our mind may not register very clearly. So, good actions that we do only physically, physical level, can only register a very weak tendency in the mind system. But suppose you think, sit somewhere and ponder over, contemplate deeply on some higher ideas, it goes very deep. You are sowing the seed very deep in fertile soil. So, all these great good actions produce residual effects, and we are born with this bundle of samskaras, tendencies, impressions. This discussion continues. Technically speaking, it is Vagadi Panchagam, Sravanadi Panchagam, Pranadi Panchagam, Bhudadi Panchagam, etc. Avidya, Kama, Karma. We'll discuss the later. Next one is, I think in this 95th verse, Nigadyade Antakaranam Manothihi, Ahankridis Chittamidis Suvruttibhi, Manastu Sankalpa Vigalpanadibhi, Buddhipadartha Adhyavasaya Dharmataha, Atrabhimanadaham Idyahankridihi, Swarthanusandhana Gunena Chittam. Now, here is a wonderful description of the structure of the human mind based on how it functions, how it responds to situations and circumstances. So, when we see something, let's say, I can explain this only with light of some examples. Suppose when you see an object at a distance in semi-darkness, a pillar, it may look like a human being from a distance. Your mind is thinking, is it a pillar or is it a human being? mind is working, means speculative system, mind this or that, etc. When you decide, when you come close to it and you decide, no, it is not a human being, it's only a pillar, intellect, deciderative faculty. So speculative faculty, decision-making faculty, and then when you see that pillar and suddenly you realize you have seen this the previous day, then you identify yourself to be somebody who has seen that object the previous day. After 1 week, when you remember this incident, chittam, memory. So these are 4 departments of the human mind, according to Vedanta. So that is, it's called antakaranam or internal organs. In Sanskrit, this is internal organs. But let's say how our mind or mental world functions. We may call it mental world. In some books, the word chittam itself could mean all these together. In Patanjali Yoga Sutra, Yoga Chitta Vritti Nirodha, first mantra. The chitta here includes all these 4. But Vedanta, they are distinct. So, these are 5 functions of the human mind or mental world. So we have some doubt, either it is a pillar or a human being, that is sankalpa, samshaya, etc. When you decide something, it is intellect or buddhi. And then when you identify yourself, by that experience, it is ego. We may call it aham vritti. And then when you remember this sometimes, it is chitta. Now, all these are different parts of the subtle personality. So one may ask this question. The way the intellect functions, the way mind functions, the way memory functions, the way we respond to situations, all these are interlinked. This is different from person to person. And it depends upon the kind of mind, thoughts, ideas, values that this person is practicing. Somebody who is following a higher ideal in life, his mind, his intellect, his memories will be functioning differently. Those who don't have anything higher than just making the essential needs of human being, I mean food, shelter, well, they may not have higher ideas. The utilitarianism which is a problem of our times. Extreme utilitarianism. Judging everything on the basis of the immediate practical benefit that it may give you. So that's a problem. So, higher ideals frequently may be forgotten in an age where utilitarianism becomes the great ideal for the majority of people. Now, here Shankaracharya says, when we try to do good things, we can purify our emotions and feelings. And that's the real relevance of this particular state of mind. One may ask this question, do we have any control over our subtle personality? We can have control by doing good things, by thinking good thoughts, by pursuing a higher ideal. We can improve the spiritual character of our subtle personality. If a person goes on doing good things for a long time, even unconsciously, mechanically, you find his mechanical actions, which are directed to some good purpose, higher purpose, will produce a sattvic quality, what you may call a spiritual quality in his mind. He becomes non-violent, compassionate, a better human being. If continuously, without even believing in God, Remember, there are many wonderful human beings in this world who don't believe in God, who are doing a lot of good things. Absolutely. Unfortunately, the opposite also is true. That is the other part of it, but you don't want to mention. People who happen to believe in God, swear by the faith in God, do terrible things. But there are people who are very peaceful, compassionate. They don't deny God, but they are not particularly interested in following the ritualistic aspect of religion as we understand it. But they always try to do good things, think good thoughts, good human beings. That's because they continuously engage themselves in doing good things, their mind also improves. When you continuously, even mechanically, maybe you're enforced by the law, if we happen to be doing good things all the time, not even conscious, maybe against our own will. There are people who have to do a lot of good things, they would rather do some mischief. But law enforcement is very strong. So they have to live a very peaceful life. So continuously engaging in good physical actions will have an effect on the mind. The mind slowly gets enriched, gets purified by engaging in good actions. And then mind can become more and more compassionate, better. It's called sattvic qualities. So, that's what we have to remember. What are the subtle personalities? One is Vagadi Panchaka, means that is the organs of word we speak, the tongue, the hand, feet, and so on. That is Karmendriya, senses of action, then Jnanendriya, senses of perception, like the skin, the eyes, the ears, the nostrils, and the tongue, taste, smell, seeing, hearing, touching, all the different ways of understanding things. You touch a book, you understand there's a book is lying there. You hear the sound of the car, that's why you're perceiving the existence of a car moving in the streets. You see something, that's very obvious. You taste, you understand what the quality of the food you're eating, like that. So the organs are the senses of action and the senses of perception. And then the elements, the 5 elements that constitute our physical body. And also the 5 dimensions of the breath, that is also very important. Actually, breathing system also can have an effect on the human mind. You find when a person is angry, his breathing system is disturbed. When he's calm and quiet, his breathing system is settled, balanced. So, in fact, the very concept of pranayama, which Patanjali describes in the Samadhi Pada, in the many sadhana pada, Samadhi pada, where there are many places where Patanjali refers to. So, actually, one of the Ashtanga Yoga, Yama, Niyamasana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyana, Samadhi. So, pranayama is not a very important part of Patanjali Yoga system, but is one of the 8 disciplines, Yama, Niyama, etc. Yama, Niyamasana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyana, Samadhi. In fact, the psychology behind is, when the breathing system gets disturbed because of your anger, then by calming down, by harmonizing the breathing system, mind can be calmed, mind can be brought into a level of tranquility. That's the connection. That's a different subject. So, the prana system also is an important part of subtle personality. And then avidya, kama, karma. Actions. Actions, as I mentioned, actions produce result. The invisible result of our actions will remain in the mental system. as a samskara. In the samskara is a word used in Patanjali system, Vedanta, and also Buddhism. Samskara. A strong tendency created by a desire to do certain things, and by doing it, that is called samskara, tendency. Now, all this happened because we don't know our true nature. We define ourselves as physical body and subtle body. And our strong desire. Desire also will create the residual effect, because desire leads to action. Action again will create this. It's called a kind of karma, vritti, samskara, chakram. Chakram means wheel. Karma means action. Vritti means same thing, tendency, residual effect of our actions that remains in the mental system long after the action is completed. If a person goes on doing wrong things, his mind becomes toxic. It's an important thing, because negative samskaras, negative tendencies. If a person goes on doing good things, wonderful things, mind also becomes noble, calm and quiet. So, and these tendencies will again prompt him to continue whatever he has been doing in previous life or earlier in this life. Because the old tendencies, habits will prompt him to continue doing the same actions. So it's a cycle, like a wheel. And then we have 97th verse. Pranapana vyanodana samana bhavatyasu prana swayameva vritti bhedat vigruti bhedat suvarna saliladivat. So now the prana means the vital force, not breath. But breath is only the gross dimension of vital force. You may call it energy. Of course, the vital forces that we exist in our body system is a manifestation of prana. But prana is much more than that. So, all these vital airs, vital forces function like gold becoming different ornaments depending upon the way a jewelry, a goldsmith produces different things from gold, or the way pot maker makes different clay utensils, jar, cups and many things from clay he can make. Same clay takes different forms and we'll call them different names. Now like that, human mind also is functioning. When our mind is drawn towards an external object by the eyes, what happens is the mind takes that form. Because the form of the object that we see with our eyes will create a similar reflection on the mental system. So also when we hear a sound, the sound also will register an identical system in the mind. I'll give you an example. Suppose you listen to music, or if you are learning music, a music teacher teaches you something in the morning. Next day you are able to remember. But music teacher is not there, you are not playing a record, but you'll be singing that song in your mind. So mental hearing. Again, when you see an object with the mind, next day you remember, and the picture of the object is appearing in the mental curtain, mental canvas. That's why we are able to remember. So memory is a kind of reliving or re-experience. Now, like this, all our experiences will deposit a memory, register a samskara, a tendency in that system called chittam, and this chittam becomes the real subtle personality. So what we actually are is not the physical form. Physical form is part of it. But what we actually are is the totality of all the tendencies, impressions, samskaras that have accumulated in the mental system. And Vedanta and Buddhism tells you that we didn't start in this life alone. We started long ago in previous life cycles. That's why in many modern books on psychology, psychiatry, you find as in certain cases of obsession and phobias, they are not able to explain the real cause of phobias and obsessions. Frequently we can trace the cause of many of the problems through hypnotism. If you get through regression, you may take an individual to his childhood experiences. When he reconnects that, then if you explain, the phobia or obsession can be treated and it can be reduce the negative impact. But there are many problems which cannot be traced to any of the experiences of this life cycle. But they manifest in a strange way in some personalities. So very often the real cause is traced to some source beyond this life cycle. And when you find an explanation, the phobia can be reduced. Because very often, many of the obsessions and phobias cannot be explained. And when you cannot explain, there is no way to address the problem. But if you can explain to the person, it's some kind of a link. When the problem is explained, the problem is solved. Problem cannot be solved through medicine. It can only be solved by revealing the actual cause of it. So the idea of subtle samskara, sukshma sharira, has a lot to do with the human personality. What we are physically is only the most insignificant aspect of our personality. Physical. The physical dimension is only the outer shell. The real personality is beneath and beyond the external personality. That's a very important. That's why if sthula sharira, the external body, the gross body is all that really counts, then every person who has a good outer experience can be a Christ or a Buddha. We don't find that happening. It never happens. There are people who may not have a very pleasing appearance but are very saintly. I give an example, many examples. Gandhi was not nobody will make him a film actor, movie actor. But he was one of the finest human beings. So in American context, Lincoln, people compare this. Great man. He was great because of some ideas and values that he practiced and stood for and lived for. So now Shankaracharya says, Vagadi pancha sarvanadi pancha pranadi pancha vimugani pancha buddhyadya vidyabhi kama karmani puryashtagam sukshma sriramahu. So this subtle body is called a city. Puri means a city or a compound. Ashtaga means something with 8 components. So what are they? The 5 jnanendriyas, 5 karmendriyas, then pancha mahabhutas 5, then the 5 dimensions vital force, then intellect, buddhi, mana, chitta, ahankara, intellect, mind, my speculative faculty, desiderative faculty, and also the memory system, ignorance, our own wrong understanding of what we are, and desire and actions which are caused by desire. So this is called 8 components. We don't have to worry too much. If you want more explanation, you can ask during interaction. I can explain that at that time. So the subtle personality has got these 8 components. If you want a simpler interpretation, it is very simple. In some other books, it is put in a much more simple language. Subtle personality is nothing but what we remember, what we think, what we experience, and our desire to do things or actions and their results. That's all. 17 elements. It's called Puri Ashtagam in the Vivekachudamani. Idam shariram sunu sushma saknidam lingam tu apanchikada bhuta sambhavam savasanam karma phalanu bhavagam swajnanadu anadhi upadi atmanaha. Now, this Sukshma Sharira, it has got another name. If you read some other book, Vedanta, even Linga Shariram, means subtle. Now the point is, it is constituted by our samskaras, tendencies, impressions that we have accumulated by our actions in previous life cycles. It doesn't mean that we are all helpless toys in the hands of a mighty destiny. People may believe that way. No, that's wrong. Vedanta doesn't believe in fatalism. No. That's why in Vedanta explains this to you. What we are right now is because of what we did or what we were before, in this life or previous life. That's true. But then it doesn't mean that we are helpless. No. By deliberately doing good things, speaking good things, by feeding our mind with good food, good spiritual food, we can change the nature of our personality. We can change the way our own mind functions. One may ask this question, how do we feel? How can we feel when we are changing for the better? When we feel that our own mind is friendly with us, when we do good things, that's the one important indication that we are improving in spiritual life. When our own mind is friendly, is cooperating with us. To give some explanation. Many people want to do a lot of good things. Either going for a walk every day, or doing meditation every day, or reading some good book every day, changing their habits which they know to be not good for them. There are many people who are struggling with procrastination, things like that. One simple reason for procrastination is their mind is unfriendly with them. Mind is not willing to cooperate when we do something that's essentially good for us. Patanjali has given many suggestions in this context. Whenever a negative thoughts come to the mind, creating conflicts, we should encounter the negative thought with a positive thought. Something like that. So one way to turn our mind into a friend or friend is to try to keep doing good things. Mentally, it may be difficult. Not easy to go and start reading a good book. You would rather start reading some cheap journal or something. That may be good, that's more entertaining The mind easily identifies with something that may be trash. Mind is not very happy when you read something like Sermon on the Mount or Vedanta or Bhagavad Gita. No, that's boring. So rather we read something cheap to entertain the mind. That mind is not our friend. So how to turn the mind into a friend? When you read some higher book that is helpful in our life, mind is cooperating, that mind is friendly. Any friend who helps you for a good cause is a friend. That's how we define a good friend in normal life. So Vedanta will tell you, you should deposit more and more spiritual checks in the mental balance, mental bank, doing good things. Something doing physically, doing good things. Because good actions produce good samskaras. Because good samskaras are the cause of good vrittis, and vrittis are the results of good actions. Slowly our mind, thoughts, emotions and feelings undergo a positive change. Prayer, reading good books or any of these activities are very helpful. So, when we say that our true personality is the totality of all our actions in the past, it doesn't mean that we are totally helpless. Because our destiny is already determined, predeterminism. No. What it says is, we can still improve. We can build our own destiny by consciously engaging in good positive actions, good positive thoughts, by feeding our mind with good food. Reading a good book is one way of feeding the mind with good food. Doing something physically, something engaging some good actions is one way of feeding the mind with good food. Because actions produce a kind of tendency. Even if a person unwillingly, if we keep doing something good, it will help him. So that's why our subtle personality we can change. It is not a rigid, inflexible dictator. Rather, it is something that we can work with by deliberately doing good actions. After this, the author gives a beautiful description of the functions of waking state, dream state and deep sleep state. How the human mind absorbs tendencies and impressions in waking state, and again they replay in dream, because we can never have a dream which is totally distinct and different from waking state experiences. Dreams are not exact duplicates or repetitions of waking state experiences, but dreams always will have the content that is linked to what we have experienced waking state. It's called Jagra Sopna Sushupti Avasthatraya Bheda, a very wonderful discussion of the three states of the human consciousness: waking, dream and deep sleep or dreamless sleep state. We can have that discussion in the next class. Now we can have interaction. You are most welcome. Yeah.
Swamiji,
Yeah.
A question about samadhi.
Yeah.
When I was in 1968 at the tomb of Sri Aurobindo, the disciples said that he went into a samadhi when he died at age 80. Now, there are different types of samadhis. One of them is Turiya samadhi. Is that correct?
Yeah. Turiya is the fourth state, which is beyond waking, dream and deep sleep state. The fourth stage is Turiya, which transcends all the three, but linked to all the three, but going beyond all the three. Yeah. Please continue.
Okay. Another question is about, there have been many teachers from the East that have come to the Bay Area.
Yeah.
And quite often they leave with financial difficulties, certain sexual liberties, and so on and so forth. I won't name the yogis and so forth, but could you say something about spiritual inflation as opposed to ego inflation? That when these men and women are in a position of teaching, it seems like they cause more problems for themselves as well as their disciples. So the inflation of spirituality in a negative sense seems to occur.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's true, commercialization of higher values, including spirituality, can corrupt the tradition and the lineage. So, one important principle of Hindu spiritual tradition, time-honored tradition, thousands of years, is it should never be commercialized. So when you commercialize, which is an inescapable thing in modern times, if you teach the highest message, there may not be many takers. But if you dilute it, Coca-Cola has more takers than tender coconut. So everyone knows tender coconut is healthier, but you don't get the excitement of drinking some of the. I'm not criticizing anything. Generally, but everyone will admit that tender coconut is certainly more healthy. I don't have anything against these soft drinks. Soft drinks are wonderful, let us say. But the point is, the tendency to go for something more eye-catching, which may be more commercialized, is a common problem in our tradition. That is true. But we can't help it. Okay, any question? Yeah.
Swamiji, there's an online question.
Yeah.
Pranam Swamiji, we refer to, and it's from Yogesh Agarwal. Pranam Swamiji, we refer to ears, nose, eyes as the five senses in the subtle body.
Yeah.
Aren't they part of the gross body?
Yeah.
Does the subtle body refer to something else that is behind these physical senses?
But could you repeat once more slowly? Yeah.
So we refer to the ears, nose, eyes as the five senses in the subtle body.
Yeah.
Aren't they part of the gross body?
Oh, yeah.
Or does the subtle body refer to something that is behind this physical?
I'll explain. Yeah. So, now look here, as I mentioned, eyes, ears, the sense of smell, sense of taste, sense of touch, all these five, they're subtle. Not what is visible as part of the human body, but what we experience with the eyes. Because when you see something, that the experience of seeing something will produce an effect on the mind that remains there. That is invisible. Tendencies are linked to the residual effect of what we experience, not the experience itself. You see something outside, you want to achieve that, you want to get that. The sight of the object is gone, but the desire to procure that object is still in the mental system. So it affects the mind. Again, you hear something, you develop a liking for the sound, or maybe dislike for the sound. So that liking or dislike is subtle. The sound itself is gone, disappeared, but it produces a residual effect. Again, the smell, taste. Taste remains in the mouth only for maybe not even 1 minute. But the desire to taste that again is retained in the mental system. So all these five external organs, like the sense of hearing, sense of seeing, sense of touching, sense of smelling. All these have a corresponding subtle dimension. They create a tendency, a desire to have the same experience again. That is subtle. So when you are born again, you are born with a desire. Not because you have seen that in this life. You have seen maybe even your previous life 200-300 years ago. You are born into a different century. You may have that desire. So that's why Buddhism says this desire is responsible for this cyclic rotation of birth, life, death and rebirth and desire. Trishna as Buddhists call it. So all these experiences have one external aspect which may be part of the physical body. This ears is physical body, grows. Eyes, physical body grows. But the effect of seeing an object with these eyes is subtle. That effect will continue. Again, when you are born again, you are carrying with you this tendency, the effect of what you have experienced in this life with these 5 senses. Follow?
Mm-hmm.
That's why.
Thank you.
Thank you, Swamiji.
Yeah.
So you discussed the Stula Sharira and the Sukshma Sharira, the gross and the subtle bodies. And you talked about the different prana and desire and action and all that. So I would assume in the grand scheme of this book, in looking at it, I guess, from Sankhya's perspective and yoga and Vedanta, that this is all the stuff you discussed today is still considered anicca, right? It's still considered...
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So with that being said, I guess the Atman is the energy or the consciousness that's animating all this sort of stuff.
One point I will add,
Okay.
because this is relevant to what you said just now.
Okay.
All these are anitya, true.
Okay.
So when this student put 5 questions, 7 questions to the teacher, the most important question is, what is Atman?
Right.
That it cannot be explained. It is beyond explanation, beyond words. So what the teacher says is, what is unreal, what is impermanent, that is explained, and what is left behind after explanation of the impermanent is the reality.
Okay.
So that is the approach in this text.
Okay. With that being
Yeah.
with that being said, is the Atman is what
So-
is
so-
animating this phenomenal
okay.
realm?
No, I will make it clear. You see, so you can take this verse number which I tell you, 54th, I believe 54th verse. If you take, not 54th, sorry. Yeah, 1 minute. So when this teacher is putting this question, so the student put this question to the teacher doesn't come to the answer of the most important part of the question. The most important part of the question is, what is Atman? That question cannot really be answered. Why? Because what is Atman is beyond description. So again, the 51st verse, if you take 51st one, Ko nama kathamesha bantha, kathamesha agadaha, katham pradishtha asya, katham vimoksha. See, Ko nama bantha, kathamesha agadaha, katham pradishtha asya, katham vimoksha, koso anatma, paramakka atma, tayor viveka kathamedad uchyadam. So, paramakka atma, what is the Supreme Brahman? That is the most important question, 6th one. But the teacher begins his description, explanation, by focusing on the 5th question. Koso anatma, what is non-atman, what is anitya? what is the impermanent, what is the unreal. You follow? Yeah. So, when you have got a clear understanding of what is unreal, then you will know what is real. The analogy of the serpent and snake analogy, that many of them may be new to you. See, semi-dark room, there is a piece of rope lying on the floor. You may mistake it for a snake. You bring light, so the wrong idea that it's a snake is gone because you have brought a flashlight. Then what it is self-established. It is self-answered. Again, when you bring a light and we are convinced that it is not a rope, then what it is, you do not explain. It is obvious. And again, that because that doesn't need an explanation, it is self-explanatory. Atman is self-explained, self-explanatory. You don't need a torch to reveal light. You don't need a flashlight to reveal light, because light is self-revealing. Light reveals itself. It is also reveals other things. So the main focus is this. The teacher, this is a very important point, remember, the 51st verse should always you memorize, 51st verse. What is koso anatma? What is non-atman? That's a question, fifth question. That's what the teacher begins with. The whole book is a description. Then, towards the end, it's explained what is Atman. Please continue.
Could you say that the Atman is giving the light to the prana, which then animates?
Yama.
No, could you say that the Atman is the source,
Yeah.
and it's giving light to the prana that's animating the gross and subtle bodies? Is it the prana that's animating the gross and subtle bodies?
That's right. Now, in the coming verses, very soon, next class, you will understand, you'll hear that it is Atman that makes it possible for the pranas to function, for the mind to function, for the buddhi to function, for the chittam. All these are able to function because there is the presence of Atman. So that is a thing. It is electricity that manifests in so many different dimensions, It's like the same Atman is functioning, same Atman activates all these functions. That's very important.
All right, and then just another sort of, when you talk about feeding the mind good food and having the mind become friendly with us. When we say having the mind become friendly with us, is what part of the chittam is able to take a step back and look? Is it the buddhi, the buddhi element within the chittam that's saying my mind's being friendly or not friendly?
This idea of turning your mind to our own friend is an instruction for a very beginner. Many people will consider this class terribly boring. There are many wonderful, entertaining things that we can enjoy. So the very fact that people can have the patience to listen to these things is because their mind is capable of looking beyond the world of momentary pleasures, and the mind is tolerating when you try to read something transcendental, something profound. But many people won't be able to tolerate this. They will go and grab something, it's some kind of a thriller or watch the movie or something. Mind is very cooperative. When you try watch the thriller, Terminator 1, 2, 3, mind is very helpful, mind is very happy. Mind is very happy, very cooperative. When you go to the library, you Sermon on the Mount, very boring, you think so. Right. Feel like that. Or Vivekachudamani or any spiritual thing. So we can test how our own mind functions. Is our mind friendly, encouraging? All right, go on.
Right. So I guess what I'm saying is technically is the part of the chittam that's able to do this self-reflection, is that the buddhi, that's able to take a step back and be like, watch the mind.
Yeah.
Is that the faculty?
So I will tell you.
Okay.
So what happens, when I mentioned when you feed your mind with good food, what happens is your mind undergoes, it's like going to a refinery. Your mind gets refined. Mind gets purified. Because you are generating a lot of healthy samskaras.
Right, I get that. Like it's more sattvic.
Yeah.
Right. I'm just saying the faculty in the chittam that's actually able to take a step back and look at these qualities.
Resistance slows down,
Okay.
goes down. Resistance against our interest, our higher activities goes down. That's why many beginners find it. I myself seen many people come for once in a while, then they disappear. Right. Again they reappear. We can very often, and your Patanjali explains this in the classes, That's because it's good actually, because they're making effort. But the point is, when your mind is friendly with you, you can watch. It will help you when you take a good decision. It will allow you to do something good. You can just imagine people who are lazy or with procrastinating nature. Procrastination, Oh, I will take a decision today, I will take every day morning, I will take a walk. That morning, tomorrow onwards I will start. Today something else to do.
Yeah,
The
I guess
tendency
maybe
there.
just on a base, maybe it's not that important. I get the main thing is correct me if I'm wrong, you're feeding the mind good food, and over time it becomes more sattvic, it becomes more fine. I'm just asking like maybe just a technical question that's maybe not that important. What part of the chittam has that ability to reflect? Is it the intellect? Is that what we'd call the buddhi, the intellect, or maybe it's not important?
Okay, now listen.
Okay.
I mean, the mental world is divided into 4 categories in this book.
Okay.
Mana, buddhi, chitta, ahankara.
Right.
Mind is speculative faculty.
Okay.
This or that.
Okay.
Buddhi is deciderative faculty. You make a decision. Ahankara is self-identification with experience. Chittam is repository of memories in this book. So, our memories of previous experiences are deposited in Chittam. But remember, because you are also bringing Yoga Sutra from time to time, and also Sankhya system, you have to remember, right. Yoga, Patanjali includes all these components in one single item called Chittam.
Right, okay.
So Patanjali's understanding of Chittam, as explained by Vyasa, is much more comprehensive, much more all-inclusive than the word Chittam as used in this book. It is more of it analyzes a threadbare. But Patanjali uses one umbrella term, Chittam. Chittaha, so yogaha chittavati nirodha akshata. The chitta prasadanam Patanjali uses. It is not the tranquility of one component. It means the entire system is calm and quiet.
Okay.
So here, listen carefully. Again, the point is, what part of the chittam? Memory. Because how mind influences your actions through memory. Without memory, your previous actions will not influence your
I guess to keep it simple is that sattvic qualities are going to refine the whole mana, ahamkara, buddhi. It's all interrelated. And the main thing is that if you change your thought, speech, and actions to more sattva, it's going to improve the relationship with your mind.
Exactly. Correct.
Great. Okay.
Okay, so we'll continue our class next week. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tat Sat Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.